Hello, welcome back to the garage. Thought it was time to give you a quick update.
Oh dear.
Oh, fire! You don't need a special tool, you need a special tin.
It's alive!
Okay, so it's been a few weeks since I last put up a video, and I know when you don't get videos up, it seems like you do one video, you sit down, you do nothing. Actually, I've been really busy, I'll be honest, and lots of things have gone wrong, and I've been trying to do stuff. If you keep an eye on the socials, you've seen I tried to do a breather for the for the engine, like a breather and an oil filler, because the 16 valve doesn't have an oil filler on the top of it. Yeah, I'll cover that in a minute. But let's catch up from where the last video left off. So I think last time on the video we had everything kind of like assembled. So yeah, I got them painted, so stripped the paint off them, painted them again. I have reassembled these with new seals, new pistons, even new bolts. I've even got the new bolts to go onto the hubs as well. And then I went through the horrible arduous task of starting to do the ball joints. And I know you can get the proper the other ones you just bolt on and forget about, fire and forget jobbies, but I don't like them. I'd rather have one of these. It's just a job I have to kind of get myself in the right mood for, so hence I've got all these lock tabs now. I've been through my pot, found some new lock tabs for the bottom, and I've started setting this up, and to be honest, that's probably where it needs to be. So I've got to measure my gap now, and then get the shims out, and so all the shims are all sort of sitting in the bottom there somewhere, so I'll deal with that later. And then also on the bench we have this pile of stuff. So yeah, let's cover what that's all about. You can notice there's rust and stuff on these. Yeah. Okay, so if you're not in the UK and not in the southeast, you may not know that it's been a bit damp the last, I don't know, what feels like 6 months. We've had lots of rain, lots of freezing cold weather. It got warm, it got bright for a brief like couple of days, and it's gone back to being miserable and wet again. And I dare say today was the very first day in what feels like forever that it was bright and warm and dry enough that I could take the cover off the Mini. And when I did so, I found some horrors. So you'll see that everything here now looks lovely and shiny, and there's no rust, and I've been round everywhere, and it's all, you know, I've done a little bit of remedial work on some few bits and bobs that I've been meaning to get to, but my cover isn't entirely waterproof, and rain does find its way through. And what happened is rain's found its way through, it's gone in the gutter, it comes down the gutter, it falls off the gutter, it falls down here, it fills up this. I had some tape blocking these holes up, but it wasn't a very good tape, so the water then got off and inside. It started to go rusty in that corner. The same had happened in this corner. The tops of these wings were starting to do the same. The front of all this was starting to do the same, where I'd only put a light coat of weld through primer on. So I have spent a lot of time today cleaning up everything back to bare metal once again, and then I have put on some of this, as I did in my subframe, the rust inhibiting primer. Now I know it's not a perfect seal, but it's going to be better than what was there, which was everything going rusty. So everything's gone back to bare metal again. I did some nice little bits, like, you know, just tidying up that welded edge there, and the same on the other side. And I've done a couple of bits down the side of the wings here where these plates are welded on that I hadn't done. So, you know, it's just a few little touch-up jobs. And now I've got to wait for another day when it is ready to add some more paint. That big pile of rusty nuts and bolts on the bench, or the ones that at least had some surface rust on them, they were sitting kind of like across here. So they didn't help the situation of rust, because they started rusting, which then makes things around them rust. So yeah, hence why, if you look at this now, it's all really, 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 really lovely down there. And when I say more paint, I mean, I've obviously got to get another coat of that primer on there. It's a bit too cold to do it now, so that we've started getting the dew coming down from the the cold weather and the clear skies, so things are going to start getting cold and damp soon, which is why I'm going to cover this up in a minute. But yeah, I want to get another coat of that primer on. I want to sand it down. I want to put a couple of high build goes on there, just to try and do my best to get it to look good. So I want to get this painted, and then, or at least the engine bay side painted. I'm not so fussed about this because I can do that afterwards when I do the outside, but I want to get the engine bay bits all painted so that then that's done. Then the subframe can go on and get built up. I know I could build the subframe up in the garage and have everything sitting on it, but it gets heavy then, and I've got to pick the damn thing up with all the running gear on it and drag it over there, balance it on my knees and put it on. So it's an awful lot easier to have the bare subframe and all the bare assemblies and just build it up on the car, because then as soon as you're built up on the car, so it doesn't take long to put all the suspension bits on, and as soon as it's on, you can button it all up, drop it down on the wheels. Oh, what a thing. I'm so looking forward to that. So yeah, it's been a busy day. It's been one of those frustrating busy days of, oh, it's not even a day to be fair, I got here about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but just an afternoon of going back over work I'd already done and now covering it up with some kind of paint in order to stop it from going rusty. Right, so that's where we're up to with the car. The engine is currently as done as it can be. It's all built, it's assembled, and it's waiting at my friend's garage for a moment when we can pull ourselves together and get it dragged over here. But I'll be honest, there's not really much point doing that now if I haven't really got anywhere to put it but on the floor. I'd rather have that painted, have the subframe in the hull, and then I can drop the engine straight into the hull, drop it down on its wheels, and after that everything gets an awful lot, you know, it snowballs, it goes a lot quicker. So yeah, that's kind of where things are kind of up to. That's what I'm kind of building up to, is get the engine back home again when the subframe is done and in, when the bulkhead's painted, you know, so I can literally go subframe in, engine in, wheels on the deck, start setting the suspension height up, get the wiring in the engine bay. I can put the wiring in the flip front. I can start everything, and it's just kind of all waiting on some good weather so I can get out there to do it. I even today spent a bit of time just measuring up and just sort of thinking, you know, how much would it cost to build from my gate back over to my garage? How much would it cost to cover that space? And the brief calculations I've got, it would blow whatever budget I've got left to put into the car. So it's kind of like, it's a no-starter really, isn't it? It's, I can cover the car, then I can't work on it because I've got no money left. Or I've got money to spend on the car, but I've got to wait for good weather. And it's frustrating, but it's the world I'm in. Things I would do differently would be 12 years ago when I moved into the house, I would knock the garage down and I would build this bit to start with. That would be the first thing I'd do. But yeah, live and learn. Didn't have the money then, didn't have a reason. The Mini wasn't here then, so right, okay, I'm rambling. So let's get on to that breather I was talking about. So if you've been watching the socials, you will have seen this. Now this is not my actual engine. This is an empty, you can see there's nothing in there. It's an empty shell of a head, it's an empty shell of a block, an empty shell of a gearbox, just kind of put together so I could start kind of fabricating stuff up. I can put this in the engine bay if I need to, but yeah, the idea is I've got this here, I can do some bits that I can't do without my engine. I can do them on this, and so yeah, there's no oil filler on this. With this being a BMW bike head that's supposed to be on its side with the exhaust pointing downwards, there's nowhere to put oil in on the top because that wasn't the top. So you have to kind of invent somewhere to put it. Now, on this rocker top, this is the K1200 RS rocker box. This is a magnesium one, as it says there. Not so easy to weld on. I'm sure it's possible, but it's not so easy to weld on, and it's a little bit taller, and that means that there isn't really a lot of clearance to the bonnet when the bonnet is shut. So there's not really a lot of room to put it here. I did consider trying to do something with a half moon cutout. I did consider trying to do something with oil sort of like going in here, and you know, that being a way for it to work. I also considered the distributor hole, because I'm going to be running an ECU with like a coil pack going on here. I could use that hole to fill with oil, and I still might, but plan A currently was to do something around here. Now I want to have, where I'm running this, so how am I going to explain this? Normally when these are done with specialty components, they have a nice big pipe coming off the bottom here, going down to an oil drain down there that drains into here. So they have it, I'm sure the oil drain is around there. If I zoom out a little bit, yeah, they have the oil drain here, and it goes onto the side of the head here. It's a nice big inch kind of size pipe, goes round the cam belt and down to here. But they have teeny tiny drains here. And I've looked at the head and I've put a lot of water through it or fluid through it in my parts washer, and I found that actually if you ran these bigger, these pipes on the back of the head bigger, then actually you might be able to get away with doing things differently. So they have a 3/8 BSP hole here with a 3/8 pipe. So it's a tiny bore pipe. I've got 1/2 inch BSP pipe here, the 15mm pipe coming down here. So I've got a lot more drainage coming down on this pipe and the one that's going to go next to it. So I'm going to do away with this, because at the very worst, all this will do is fill up with oil to a point. The oil will then go down that hole. That hole leads straight over to that drain. So it'll drain out of there. So I don't really feel that there's a need to have anything on here. In fact, when the Australian guys do this, so this should be reed speed in Australia, he has his blanking piece not at the bottom here. He has quite a thick one, and he runs it across here, a lot higher up, so that any oil from here just drains straight across and goes that way. So I feel that that's a solution that, you know, there will be oil sitting down here. I can't get away from that, and it might leak. I might have to do something about that. We'll cover that when the time comes. But I don't feel that there's a need to empty this. I feel that if it filled with oil, it's not the end of the world, and that actually the oil will go that way and it will drain down these two if they're bigger. But also, that chamber down there is this here. Obviously it drains from up there. So if there is any excess oil in there, I've got an inch pipe coming out of the head here. So if there's any that can't drain down there, especially when you go around a bend, if oil surges this way and it can't drain out of there, it can come out here. So I wanted that to be able to drain into here, but also to have a filler up high and to go above the level of this with a breather pipe to go off to a catch tank. Because if this can't cope, obviously it's a 30mm bore pipe here, so you've got 25mm breather into a 30mm bore breather, so you've got enough room for the oil there to go down and air to come up. So the oil would come out to here, and then higher up you've got a pipe off to a breather and then have a cap on the top of it. That was my idea, and I managed to make it all, and I'll show you that now in case you haven't seen it on the socials. Okay, so you've seen that, you recognise it. It looks quite good, doesn't it? You can see it is fit for purpose. It follows the brief of everything I did. And then I thought, well, okay, I've welded this. It's really thin metal, and it was quite tricky to weld. And probably welding's not the best thing to do. It probably needed brazing or something like that. But I know what, I'll plug up all of the ends, and I will fill it up with a bit of air, and I'll see where the leaks are. And you can see that here. Yeah, I mean, there's really quite a lot. I mean, you can hear them fizzing away, little ones all over the show. That's the joy of DIY welding, and shit DIY welding at that. So yeah, I mean, the one bubbling up the fittings I'm not worried about. I've only put a bit of PTFE down there, probably didn't put quite enough, but yeah, all the other little ones, if we get up, I know I'm putting close to 20 psi in there, but you know, there's quite a few. So guess what I'm going to be doing now? Yep, more shit welding. Yeah, so there were quite a lot of leaks, really lots and lots of leaks. It was bad, and so I marked out one. I brought it back into the garage, had the welder set up, so I had the leak pot outside. I'd fill it up with air, leak there, bring it in, I'll try and weld out that one, go back, and forward and back and forward is what I kind of thought I would do. And yeah, where I'd got some of the leaks is where I'd worn the metal a bit too thin. So as soon as you try and weld that, you blow a hole, because I've obviously worn it really thin with trying to make it look shiny. So I blew a hole, and then it spent a bit of time filling that hole up. That was all good. Back to the thingy, back and forward, trying to fill up these all these little pinholes that I had. And yeah, it didn't turn out so good. That. Have any of you seen the episode of Father Ted where he gets a prize car? I'm pretty sure it's like a Rover 200 he gets, and he drives it back, and he arrives there and says, "Oh no, Dougal, terrible, we've got a little stone chip and a little dent in the front of this. Get me my little hammer, I'll just tap the side of it and tap it the other way." And he tip taps it, and he misses, and he makes a little dent, and he goes, "Oh, okay, well, I'll do 2 dents now." And he keeps going with his tapping hammer, and eventually the car is utterly trashed. I've done the welding equivalent of that. What I'm now left with is this monstrosity. I blew holes through it like you wouldn't believe. It was horrendous to try and weld. And then I started thinking, okay, well, I'll lay some weld over the top of the weld and I'll try and stop the leaks. And in doing that, I then added so much heat that I've actually distorted these so they no longer do up. I also got some spits of weld down them so that they don't do up. This one is especially bad in there somewhere. I can't remember whereabouts it is, but yeah, they were, yeah. So I've trashed this utterly. I'm really disappointed in myself because I was so proud of what I'd done in sort of achieving all the targets. You know, it bolts onto the back of the head, so it's supported. It's a standard mini breather with a standard mini filler cap, so it kind of looks mini, which is nice. We've got the breather low down. I've got, it breathes down if it needs to, but it can also drain down, but you've got a breather at the top that oil can't spin around and fall out the other one because it's higher, and I've got the angles against each other. So if the oil was coming out here really fast, it still wouldn't blow into this chamber here and go off to the catch tank. So, you know, I was quite pleased with how I'd done it. And then obviously it went horribly wrong. And even with blocking these 2 completely up and pumping it full of air just to see if there is still leaks in places that I didn't have leaks when I started. It's shocking. So yeah. So what I've got here now is another breather, which I'm gonna try and do the same too. I've also got, this is a oil filler / breather off of a Maestro, and obviously that's just the mini filler cap. I've just got these sandblasted to get them back to bare metal because trying to do it with my little flat wheel is obviously a bit too aggressive. So now I'm going to be able to have a second attempt at this, and also I've got another one of these. So what I did with the first one is actually I cut this in half. I only had as much as I needed in, I forget which one it was now. Let's have a look. This one was actually only about this deep, and I put the rest of it on here. So I'll do the same again. I'll try and make up a small slather for this edge here, because the OD of the original breather here is the same as the OD of this Welding Boss, which is very nice. So I will then tack everything in place. I've got to get another rocker box because I think that filler is now, I don't think that's salvageable. I think it's just going to go in the pile of broken stuff to remind me of my bell end. But yes, it's I will then leave a bit more pipe on the bottom here as well. There's the things I've learned on that last one. But yes, I've got enough bits and bobs to be able to have a second attempt at this, and I will just tack everything, and then I'll go and see my friend who has a TIG welder, and I'll get him to TIG them all on, and hopefully that will mean I can't fuck it up again. There's still a chance, but it will be a shared blame between me and the person who's doing it, hopefully. So that's where I'm up to. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that little catch up with where I'm up to and with what's been going on the last month or so. I was hoping to bring you more of what I'm doing, but I'll be honest, it's hard work trying to pull together a video of what I am doing while I'm doing it, when I've got to think about what I'm doing. So I think the best way for me to go is to, like I've done here, I'll do something and I'll update you afterwards as I've gone. And if I can show you, so like when it comes to building up the subframe, yeah, I'm going to take you through that bit by bit as I do it, because I think that'd be a really handy one for people out there. But yeah, something like that, I'll try to pull together the build of the breather / oil filler, but I can't promise I'm going to be able to. It is quite brain intensive. So yes, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. I'll try and get some more regular content out, I promise. I know I always say it, but I will try. And I'll see you on the next one.